TV. But it's perfect timing to bring in Gina. She's with Tri-County Logic and basically runs the show there and tell you all about it. Tri-County Logic, what they do, a lot of people don't know exactly what they do. They generate almost the stuff for the CBD. And also she helps us get people in the hotels, which is I over a lot. But also,
sorry, got it. Okay, so I just said my name is Legina Fitzpatrick. I am the executive director for Tri-County Lodging Association. And so I'm glad I actually was here last week and that kind of made me myself a little bit, but we'll answer all those burning questions today about the difference and why the lake is so different than any other destination. I have to be honest, in the country, there may be somebody else that else that there's us. You know, the lake's a little bit different. We have the fire chambers, we have the Commission of Visitor Bureau, and we have us. So back in the early 90s, a group of people got together to form lodging taxing districts around the Lake of the Ozarks, so in Camden, Miller, Morgan County. And it's not uncommon. I know if you guys travel a lot, no matter where you go, you need to be a bed tax or some kind of lodging tax. So Lake formed theirs back in the early 90s, and they kept it a little bit different, and they did that with intent. So in most destinations where you go to, that tax goes to the city, and then some of it might trickle down for tourism. And at the lake, what they did back in the early 90s is they formed taxing districts in all 3 counties. That if you do a short-term rental, less than 31 days of any sort, overnight lodging, you are to collect from the visitor and remit a lodging tax to a taxing district in that county. And that taxing district was within 5 miles of the shoreline of the lake. So that's kind of the district boundaries in all 3 counties. That was done with intent so that the money goes to the taxing district or you don't receive those funds. It was created that way because they wanted 100% of the money to be earmarked. Let me go this way so you're like peeking around somebody. So the money would be 100% earmarked to market the Lake of the Ozarks. So that's kind of why we're set up a little bit different. Again, a lot of areas, again, the money might trickle down to either a CBB or a tourism department or even a chamber. So here we're different. So we have the 3 taxing districts in Morgan, Miller, Camden County. Again, they have advisory boards for lodging folks who oversee it, and they could be anybody that manages or owns a facility. So we have like a bed and breakfast, we have Margaritaville, and everything in between that serves on these different boards. So then these boards got together and said, hey, you know what? We would be better together. Instead of using the money I clicked over here a little bit for Morgan County and a little bit over here for Miller County and a lot of it more obviously Camden's our taxing district. Let's take some of those monies, not all, but some of those monies and pull them together and just market the lake as a whole. Because again, together, you know, all those right. So that's where we come into play. So we have agreements with all 3 of those taxing districts, and they vote and decide based on their coffers and how much money's how well we're doing taxing, which has been really well lately, I can imagine. And they pull some of that money together, and then I go out and negotiate all those marketing contracts, and then we in turn look at the CBB, which you heard that from actually last week. So that's kind of how that works, if that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, then I ask. And we have 3 taxing boards, one in Morgan, one in Miller, and one in Camden, who oversees that funds, and then they have an agreement with us. I do the marketing negotiation contracts. And we have a marketing committee. We have lots of folks that serve on that committee as well, and then 2 CBB folks as well as myself that serve on that committee, decide how we're going to spend that money. And obviously, we attend seminars for education. We have digital marketing partners, so we make sure that we're up on all the latest trends on what we should be doing, and we tap to see what all of our competitors are doing in Branson and other places. So that's again kind of how Tri-County Lodging, how we come into play. We do share office space with the Commission of Visitor Bureau. Again, we are partners, and this is something we all work on together. And we work a lot too with the chambers, even though the chambers are more business driven, whereas we're more tourism driven. So as you can imagine, it's been a crazy few years. So the previous director, I've been with Tri-County for 13 years in June. And the previous director was the original director, so he'd been there for like 28 years. He retired in February of 20. Yeah, I'm like, oh, crystal ball, what happened? So, yeah, really, I'm like, I called him like, I don't know, like a month later, I said, hey, dude, did you like know this is gonna happen? No. So, I was originally tagged to step into the slot. I was the director of group sales, which can we handle, we work with hotels on family reunions, conventions, sports tourism. Again, we partner with Jeff, and his team to help them with their lodging and portion. And that's what I did. I was the director of group sales. And so I was not tagged with slept into the slot, but all of a sudden, like, 2 weeks when they're in the search, the world opens up and it starts to swallow us all whole. So I had to quickly step up and look at all of our marketing and say, okay, we're freezing this, throw this creative out, right? So I threw out all the creatives of, like a full bar with a bunch of people in. Just leftovers, just put a picture of a hot taco of the lake, a single book on it. So I changed all the marketing, and then about 6 months later, my board said, hey, do you want this job? I'm like, well, I guess, I don't know. So that's kind of how I ended up in this seat. Absolutely love it. I ended up at the lake. I was only supposed to be here for 12 weeks. I came here to do an internship at Lodge of Four Seasons. And yeah, I got just lucky, consider myself very blessed that I was supposed to be here. I hadn't finished school yet, and the lodge says, hey, we like you. Do you like us? Please stay. And I'm like, I need to finish school. So I had 2 classes I needed to take to graduate. I went to school in spring before that. SMSU, now Missouri State University, but it always be SMSU. So they worked with me, and I was able to finish my degree. And luckily, here I am 36 years later, just absolutely love the lake and all that we do and all that we stand for. So there's nothing better than the great outdoors. It was very soothing to be on the water. So anyway, what we do as well, my grab my notes. You guys know that I'm sure you know that tourism is big business for us, and I have some numbers that we get. We work with Missouri Division of Tourism, Tri-County Lodging Association. We are what's called the DMO, which stands for Destination Marketing Organization for all 3 counties. So to be that, all 3 county commissions have to bless off on that and vote on that, and then we also have to fill out a pretty in-depth application with the state, and then they approve for us to be the DMO. And what that means is we're able to apply for grant funding through the state. So we get a matching marketing grant each year. The current year, we run a July 1 through June 30 fiscal year, so we're wrapping up this year. This year, right now, we were able to apply for $450,000 just because their coffers have been pretty healthy. This coming next year, we're going to apply $250,000, which is still great. We have to match it. We have to say, okay, give us $250,000, and we're going to match $250,000. And here's what we're spending that money on. And so if you drive by any of our billboards, or you've seen us in rural Missouri or Missouri Life or anything, you'll see that the Missouri Division of Tourism logo is on that ad too. And that's one of the requirements that we have to put their logo on it as well as ours. So obviously they gather all this data. They have an outstanding research analyst that works for them, and they gather all this data for tourism. So with all 3 counties combined, the last fiscal year, it was $352 million of revenue tourism impact for the lake area. Wow. And yeah, and 5,699 jobs. Now let's think if we actually had all the jobs filled, how many jobs that would be, and that is actually an increase. So I'll go over some increases with you and see if you can kind of digest all this. And if anybody's interested in this, I have a few copies, but I'm happy to email it to you as well. I got some cards with me. So that increase, so the 362 million was 36.5 million over the fiscal year before, what we call fiscal 21. And that, and 547 jobs. And then that, prior to that, we had a 64 million increase. So 64 million increase of FY20. So you can see where we're going with this. Tourism is big money. We actually, because of our leadership here in our county and our cities, we were open during COVID when a lot of other folks won't. And what's nice about the lake, we have 54,000 acres, right? So you can come to the lake and be who you want to be. During COVID, you can come, rent a house, rent a condo, do grocery takeout, and stay in your little pod, and feel good and feel safe. Go out and walk at the Hunt State Park or whatever, and just not be around folks. Or you come out and hang out at the full bar with 200 of your closest new friends. So, and we had a lot of both of those things going on. If you guys know, during COVID, we had folks that were renting for weeks at a time because they were working remote and the kids were virtual learning. So just this huge impact, and that continues on. So we're gauged on lodging tax collection is kind of one of the gauges that we do to see how well we're doing. We have other gauges we use as well. So last year, again, we went in July 1 through June 30 fiscal budget. So last June, when the fiscal year ended, we hit $2 million in lodging tax for the first time ever. So it was our largest taxing year ever. Now that's twofold. Number one, yes, we have seen increased visitation, but number two, because of the increased visitation, what happened, right? Hotel rooms and our houses and condos were able to increase their rates a little bit as well because the demand was there. So as we see, you know, hospitality, again, I've been doing this for 36 years, it kind of ebbs and flows. So we see these huge peaks and then it's, you know, we go down and then we peak back up. A lot of it, as you guys know, will equate to the economy and gas prices and other things. So we're riding this wave. So I'm a very competitive person. I always consider it a challenge. And so when we hit this last year, I'm like, okay, this is a challenge to me that, you know, is this wave going to crash because more places are open, the economy, you know, gas prices were up at the time I was going through this analyst, and I'm like, what can I do to make sure we continue on this plateau in our marketing pieces? So we have to look at where our visitors coming from, which our visitors are, by the way, are coming from further away than what they used to during COVID. That was a huge change. We found out, okay, people are okay. We always targeted 7 to 8 hour drive to the lake. People are driving. We had folks, ton of folks. You guys saw the plates on the lake in Colorado, Texas. So those are two of our new feeder markets that we're spending a lot of more money into, as well as the state is too, because the state tracks all that. So they saw that too. More people coming from Florida. We had people buying short-term rentals from the East Coast, sight unseen. We had a couple in Massachusetts bought a short-term rental place, called us three months later and said, hey, we're finally coming down to see our house. And we're like, hey, that's great. Obviously, it's been doing well. And I hope it's everything that you wanted. So anyway, crazy times. So, excuse me. So anyway, again, it ebbed flow, and it just kind of helps us to tag our marketing. Right now, it kind of shifts a little bit who our top 5 states are. Right now, our top 5 states are Illinois, who's usually always in the top 5. Kansas, Iowa, again, usually always in our top 5. Texas has moved up to number 4. And then Nebraska, number 5. So that's kind of where we're at on our last quarter. We partner with a company that we get visitor intelligence from. So we know where people were coming. It's kind of like Big Brother. So we track people's credit card spending is what we're doing. And so we can tell when people come here what they spend their money on, how much is dining, how much attraction, how much lodging, what their household income is. And so that just kind of helps us to make sure that we're spending our money in the right places. Again, because we want to keep, we know at some point the hotel rates they're going to have to drop their rates a little bit. You know, is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? They're not telling me it's going to be this year. So I'm like, okay. So, you know, is it next year? And so we have to keep that needle moving forward somehow. And that's why we like to gauge all this stuff to make sure we're heading in the right direction. We also too, Jeff mentioned that we work with him. So we also do the group piece, which I mentioned. So we work with all the lodging facilities on group business. So I have a girl who works for me, lady, she's younger than me, so I call her girl. Those groups, the group market, she does corporate association, excuse me, family union, we're a huge family union destination, weddings. And then again, that's my background. And so when I moved in, I'm like, I'm gonna keep a little piece of group sales. So that's my passion. I'm a sports person, grew up a sports person, so I handle sports tourism. So I work with Jeff on his team on helping find lodging for, and I attend sports shows to see if there's something new we can bring here. We host over 500 fishing tournaments a year. I'm sure you guys are probably aware of that. So obviously I don't work with all 500, but we work with Major League Fishing, Bass Masters, Big Bass Bash, some of the big boys to get them here. So I negotiate all that stuff and help with all the lodging. I called Jeff last week. I was in a show in Kansas City. And there's an event that I think would really cool to host, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I need 75 acres. She has 75 actually. Jeff has 75 acres. Like I said, hey, are you going to work with me on this event? So he and I are talking about that to try to get it's a girl mud run, so it's kind of like a Spartans race or Tough Mudder, but it's female only. They do a whole trail all across the country, and they really want to come through the lake through the Midwest. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. Again, sports tourism is huge business. So
that's women in mud running. Women in mud running. That's you might want to come and you gotta be a fine guy.
I don't think we're gonna have, I don't think we're gonna have a problem finding volunteers for that. Somebody should. So I'll dive into our marketing a little bit. So obviously we split our monies across the board. We spend about 55% of our marketing budget in digital marketing, which is probably no surprise to anyone. So whether it be retargeting ads, geofencing, which is retargeting a certain area or a certain event. We have 2 billboards in Kansas City, 2 in St. Louis. Again, those are digital billboards. We do some TV and radio. We do Cardinals radio. We do this for the first time last year. We did Chiefs radio. We did like 8 games, and we specifically picked 8 games based on how they were airing. Like, if they were playing on Thursday night, Prime Video. Not everybody has Prime Video, so we aired them and who they were playing and all that kind of stuff. So because we can only afford anybody. Cheap radio is not cheap. Again, we do Cardinals radio. We did CTV, which is connected TV, so streaming. And that's the way most folks are going these days. So we spent money on that market as well. We still do a little bit of print because people still like to have stuff in their hand. And our target market is anywhere from 25 to 64 is our age range of what we target, because that's who we see in all of our analytics is who's making those decisions on where to travel. And so we still do print. We do Midwest Living, the Best of Midwest, they're one of their magazines. Rural Missouri, we actually partner with Lebanon and do an ad in rural Missouri. The tourism director used to work with me. She's a good friend of mine. And she called me during on the tail end of COVID, the pandemic. She goes, "Hey, I need to tell you something." I said, "Okay, what's up?" She goes, "I'm running the billboard in your backyard." I said, "Hey, you should be. We have a lot of people here." I said, "So smart move." So they have a billboard that runs on the bridge, if you guys seen it. But what was happening is because we were so busy and people couldn't get into our restaurants, they were driving there. 30 minutes down the road, not just visitors, local people were driving there, and we're telling her, and that was getting back to the tourism office. And I said, "Hey, we should talk about this." I said, "There's got to be something that we could do together. Because again, you have water, I have water, so that was our first test. So we're rural Missouri and we can co-op that. So I can co-op it, she co-op it. So we're partnering together, plus getting the state to pay for part of both of our things. So that was kind of our first test run on that partnership. The state loved it. The state loves those regional partnerships. So we'll see how we can continue that on. So we also did, this past year, we did a lot more than what we're doing in the future, because again, we had more money. But so we do outdoor guide, which again is huge. And we've been working with them for a really long time. So they give us, they charge us $600 for a full page ad. And they have the bigger magazine. So that's a big ad. So again, we promote a lot of the fishing, stuff like that, because we get a lot of multiple generation folks who come here to create those family memories of fishing. And so it's, dad, son, grandpa all come to fish. So that's a huge component of what we market with that as well. So our marketing is kind of a mix. Again, we're heavy digital, but we kind of try to touch all things. So some TV, some radio, some print, some billboards, again, heavy in digital. So do you guys have any questions? I'm kind of rattling on. Funlink.com, which again, we partner with the CBB. So Funlink is kind of a joint website. So that's our driving force, because when you market, right, it's a call to action. So our call to action is we want them to get a vacation guide, or we want them to go to our website. So website visits were usually around 1 million. I was talking to our digital marketing manager yesterday, and we're like way up this year. So we're going to hit over 1 million. I think last year we were a little short of 1 million. We also have a visit widget on the website, so you guys go and check it out. And what it is, kind of like an itinerary planning app. And when this is a new website, it's been 2 years. We launched it in March of 21. And that was one of the reasons that we picked this company that's out of Illinois for this website, because the visit widget, so the visitor can click on it and then kind of plan their itinerary and their day. So number one, that helps our visitor, but what does it also do? It helps us to tell us what they're interested in doing while they're here. So again, that kind of helps us with our marketing, but it's a great tool for our visitors as well. So I'm sorry, Jeff, you had your hand up.
No, with all the different people that are pulling at you with Margaritaville, the small people, do you get a lot of feedback on what marketing you should do when you have to filter it, or like they give you their requests, or do they just you're off to decide how to market?
We have
the marketing, their demands are probably different.
They are, because I was like, again, we have it really depends on who. Most people get that it's a big picture, so to speak, because we have to kind of touch all things. And together too, touching all things, I mean, everybody does well. So say, because everybody used to say, oh, you only help the big boys, meaning that you don't help Margaritaville, Magic Four Seasons. Well, yes, we do work with them on conventions,
But you do understand if Margarita's full, people still want to come to the lake, they're looking for another place to stay because it all runs downhill. So we have a marketing committee and we have somebody from each of the business districts sit on that committee. And like one of them does include one of the larger hotels. And then we have like Sue Pierce, who's our chair for a long time, owns a bed and breakfast. I mean, so that's, 4 or 5 rooms, that's, and then we also have short-term rentals, so some person just has one property. But see, again, they all benefit from everything, so if we do a family reunion, that doesn't go to the big boys, that can go to anybody, like a bed and breakfast, or they can rent a couple of condos from a property manager or something like that, so. For the most part, everybody's pretty okay with it. Every once in a while, we hear, oh, you guys are only for the big boys. But I can run a report that says, here's my root business and who's booking it. Big boys ain't top of the list. It's usually the middle guy because they can tap into all.
The other interesting thing about here that I still don't understand is there's very few chains. There's five chains maybe at the most, and I know the Oasis is great, another big brand, but I'm just shocked that there's not more of those Holiday Inn Express size chains. Like this year, because there's days in,
It's really,
like 1 week, 2 week shopping.
it's really because of the type of destination that we are. So if you notice when you're traveling, a lot of chains are in bigger destinations where they have more business travel, because those are the type of folks who use those chains more. Like I travel, I'm a Hilton girl, so I'm getting ready. I have a trip in August that we're going to, and my group salesperson is making a reservation. I said, well, is there a Hilton on the list? And that's what I'm I'm a Hilton girl. So I think that business travelers, the Canterbury used to be a Marriott when I first started here 36 years ago, and then they dropped it because of the fees that you have to pay to the chain versus, what they're getting off of it. Because again, it's more like if you go to St. Louis and you have like a citywide convention, which we really can't do citywide conventions, but I think you'll probably see more coming in. We have the potential Marriott coming in. I know that we get either emails or calls quite often of people wanting information because there's a lot of the economic development here right now is huge, but just because we've been doing so well for the past, 3 to 5 years. And again, I just had one last week. It says, hey, I need some information. I have a client who's looking to bring a hotel in. So again, they want us to compile all the information of average room rate.
It's longer. It's not.
It is.
It's not Memorial Day or Labor Day. That's why I was.
And it's these larger chains, and you're right, they do like this problem, but as and I'm with you, I mean, the whole girl, my husband's Marriott, and also make decisions based on where can we stay. Sometimes we'll augment the price, or just if we know and feel comfortable with that particular brand, that particular chain, even if it is like in the Marriott, both have second and lower and third tier. Like a bed and breakfast that is associated and affiliated with the brand.
Right.
I think that gets your attention if there is a standard or a. It's just, I don't think that just Apple even, because that's where I don't think it's part of the destination plans is, well, we can stay here and we feel comfortable with and relation and we're doing this scenarios.
It's not energy.
Yes.
Not just the bus, there's.
Yeah,
But that's like.
again,
that's
kind
like-
of location too for them. Yeah, I think you'll see more come off.
How do you find, how do you get your money for all these VR meetings? Because I'm a mortgage business and that conversation never comes up any time with any realtor or anything else. These people buying these homes and vacation rentals, there's no taxes, there's error. They get here. How do they have to register these houses or do they?
No, for us, that's a great question. It's a challenge. It is a challenge for us. So VRBO is usually pretty good about it. We struggle with Airbnb a little bit. So no, they fill out the registration form with the business district, which actually goes to us because we handle that on their behalf. And then we send them a form that they remit to the county. So one of the things on my very long list, again, I've been in this position for like 2 years, is to try to make it to meet with a lot of the realtors, because a lot of the realtors aren't aware that the tax is out there. And it's actually by law that they have to pay it. So the business districts has the authority, if somebody's not paying their tax, of course, they're very nice, right? First, reach out and say, hey, were you aware of it? Because a lot of times it's a lack of knowledge that they're supposed to be collecting every minute. Again, this does not come out of any business pocket. I want to make sure that's clear. The tax comes from the visitor. So it's not anybody who purchases a house that they want to, as investment property, do short-term rental. It's not coming out of their pocket. Their visitor makes their reservation on VRBO. They add on the 3% lodging tax. Now, let me talk about it too. It's 3% in Camden and Morgan. In Miller, it's 5%, which I'll go into that story here in a minute. But so they add that on, and then they remit it to the county. And then because the county handles that for the business district, and then the county deposits in the business district's bank account. So I have taxed upon myself to try to go meet with all the realtors, but we have a lot of realtors and mortgage companies. So I haven't got very far with all my other duties that I have going on, all the other things. I'm kind of in the midst of making a few other changes. So, we do need to do a better job of educating the realtors and the mortgage folks. And I even was hoping to go so far as that some people might put in their packets as well, to make people aware that the business districts partnered for a year with a company, because I have a staff of 3, so we're a very small crew, and we have over 5,000 units, like 5,000 folks. So that's a lot of people to tailor. So they contracted for a year with a company that helps you find those people, that goes into like the 60+ online reservation possibilities there are, to see who's renting. And then they were sent a letter from the business district. And a lot of it was, and when people called us, it wasn't because they didn't want to collect for a minute, it was a lack of knowledge that they were supposed to be. So after that happened, I thought I was going to have to put my admin assistant on oxygen, because my phone rang off the hook. I mean, she hung up a call and she'd have 2 voicemails and the phone was ringing again. But again, when the people understand that the money is used to market the lake, like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to pay this. And some people say, okay, I've been renting since, I just bought this in April and I've been renting since May. So I'll go back and calculate. And like, whoa, we don't want this to come out of your pocket because you weren't aware. Just from this point on, just please collect in a minute. And then I'm making this a longer story than probably what you guys want. Airbnbs have been a real big challenge, which I'm still working my way through with them, helping some other destinations that dealt with them. And they were telling our people, oh no, we collect and remit that. And we're like, no, we don't. And so first we're like questioning ourselves. So we're like calling the county collector, and the county collector says, absolutely not. We get nothing from Airbnb. And I'm like, so if you're remitting it, you have to know who you're remitting on behalf of, right? For this property manager or whatever. So it's a great question. It's very challenging and something that I'm trying to slowly make my way through. So after the meeting with you, I'll get you some paperwork. You slide in the no.
Well,
It's just it's an education process.
Get you,
Yeah.
So this would apply also to like those that are down.
Yes, as long as they're renting for less than 31 days. So a lot of the which
Yeah,
that's
not
because
the lots themselves, I'm talking about people that now, there are RVs in these lots that are renting.
yes. And that's a huge new thing that's happened in the last 2 years. And that is our fastest growing market right now, is campgrounds and RV sites. Morgan County is our smallest taxing district, but it's our fastest growing percentage wise right now because of that right there. That they have a lot more campgrounds and everything going on, which is great for them. And 2, it's it's a cheaper option for visitors. They can say, okay, instead of spending $220 for a hotel room or renting a house for $600 a night, we can get a camper at Coconuts or wherever, and for $50 a night, and you're on the water. So it's a huge thing. So yeah, has come up as well a lot the last couple of years. And again, a lack of knowledge. It's not, and nobody's intentionally not paying the tax. It's a lack of information that they're supposed to be paying the tax. Yeah.
Most.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a couple, but anyway, that's a whole other story. You've read about that online.
Oh, yeah. I would all kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
been something in the news lately, I don't want to. Legal aspect of it. Ozarks Nation is supposed to be building a couple of casinos in the area. I didn't hear you mention that, and what effect that might have.
Well, you didn't hear me mention that because they don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
So just one, the casino aspect, one of them is Osage Nation, the other one is a private entity. Osage Nation, that's up to federal government and the governor. So that's still at the federal government. Right now hasn't given a blessing on it. The governor can veto it. We've gotten word from the governor's office that he won't veto it. So if the federal government approves it, it'll happen. They do not pay taxes. That would include the lodging tax. So they called me, it's probably been almost 2 years, probably right when I stepped into the position, and wanted a testimony of support and my excitement for the property. And I said, let me tell you who I am and what I do. And I said, and I explained to her that, you know, we're based on lodging taxes, but what we do is form partnerships in the area, and they have already done that, not with us, but with other people. So they, even though they, I mean, they haven't broke ground, they cleared the ground. When they tore down that other hotel, they took everything inside of it and auctioned off and gave it to local charities. I sit on the board of Kids Harbor. I know we were one of the recipients of that. And then they partnered already with Turn Order of Police. They've already given money to the school of Osage. So what she said that they would do, like for us, like, no, we wouldn't collect or remit the lodging tax, but we might give you like $50,000 a year or something like that. So we're paying into that thing. Because even though we don't market a specific business, we market the lake as a whole, right? So we don't like market Margaritaville or this bed and breakfast or this campground. We market the lake. But they would be benefit from that, right? Because we're marketing everybody. So she said they would be a partner. So that's still at the federal level. I'm not against it by any way by means. So I didn't mean that with what I said. And the plus side about it, the way I look at it as a tourism director, is it's year-round attraction, which we need. So it would bring people here during December and January, which is a lower time frame for us. So it's more year-round. The other casino will be based on, and that has been discussed about for a really long time. I know even when Rocky Miller was in office, it was being discussed, because I think he was one of the spearheading at the time. That would be a change at the state level in the state constitution, because we're capped at the number of casinos that we can have in the state. So that would be a change. But I will tell you, this is the farthest they've ever got.
Yeah,
This year.
It didn't get on the ballot here, so it's gonna be a long time.
Yeah, but this is the furthest they've gotten at the state level. So that's a private entity. And two, there is no guarantee that that'll end up at the lake. There's conversation of having it towards the lake into the river. It could end up closer to Jeff City than the lake, because it's, again, it'd be a change in the state, allowing the number of casinos that we can have in the state. But there's no guarantee it would end up here, but there's a agency that's trying to get it here. Does that answer your long, probably again, I answer questions really long. I'm windy. There is a lot to it. Yeah.
And Carson's gonna sign the Indian casino on its way out the door.
Yeah.
Because the lobbyists, the casino is smaller lobbyists, so.
Well, yeah, and I got word to my office from Miller County office, that his office of the county, but don't like this, don't know one, but those people call me, and I'm like, well, I get it. Okay, but thank you guys so much. I hope that is, all makes a little bit more sense. I have cards. So let me think information.
Have you seen the fire?
Yeah. It's done.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming. I'm a little late. Holding the vaccination to your name. That's what I'm expecting.
Have one more. You'll draw up the yellow.
Right, I'm going. Gina,